Well, it's over, and that's the tea. Hey y'all, it's me, Bustin' Bieber, and welcome back to Hot or Rot. And today we're gonna be reviewing the finale of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 10, the Tournament of All-Stars, where 7 remaining queens and 1 eliminated wildcard return to face off in a lip-sync LalaPaRuza SmackDown for the crown, and a cash prize of $200,000. Unfortunately though, there are no grand finale eleganza extravaganza runways this episode, which isn't abnormal for a LalaPaRuza, but it's still disappointing. This could have been a really fun opportunity to get all 18 of the All-Stars 10 cast members on the stage at the same time in a sickening runway look. But we do at least have some pretty killer lip sync performances from this LalaPaRuza to break down, plus we'll be doing a little post-mortem on this season and talking about what went right and what went wrong at the end of the video. But first, we got a little All-Stars 10 drama from the Dragosphere that's been circulating the internet this past week, starting with Aja and Jorgeous discussing the Mistress drama at a recent Roscoe's viewing party. And specifically here, Aja and Jorgeous were discussing the moment where Mistress was laughing at Aja in the workroom at the beginning of last week's episode. But Aja actually talks at length about being generally annoyed with Mistress's behavior since even the very first Untucked episode.
Do you remember that first Untucked? Every 5 seconds she was like, "Are you ready for the bottom?" She was like, "I think you're in the bottom. You're going home." You know when your siblings' children is doing too much and you like, "I don't want to hit them because they're not my kids." Bitch, that's how I was feeling. I'm just sitting here like, oh my God, here this bitch go again.
And regarding that specific moment where Mistress was laughing at Aja says this.
But when we got to that moment, I was actually getting irritated, but I was really hot because Jorgeous, she pulled out these tiny little fucking books and I'm like, oh, that won't do nothing. And she's like, girl, people everywhere are like, I don't know how you didn't just turn around and slap the shit out of her. I couldn't.
And even Jorgeous, who was very closely aligned with Mistress in their bracket, had this to say.
Sister, when I was there, I was literally shitting my fucking panties, bitch. I was terrified. Because normally I'm a Mistress apologist, bitch. Like, literally. But in that moment, I was like, wait a minute, what the f is going on?
But lest we not beat the Mistress drama with a dead horse, let's move on. Next up, we've got some sad news. Bosco has been banned from X for a bit of trolling she did this past week where she was impersonating the official RuPaul's Drag Race Twitter account and got in trouble for making posts like this. This season, anything is possible. For the first time in Drag Race #herstory, we've given RuPaul a gun. Tune in for the finale of All Stars 10 this Friday only on Paramount+. And then in another post with a photo of her promo shot, she wrote, "We want to know, are you #Team Bosco? Let us know in the comments below." And then in reply to one of the posts Bosco made, Denali wrote, "LOL. Bosco wrote back, "You were eliminated, but your voice still matters. Are you #Team Bosco? Let us know in the comments below." #justice for Bosco, #give Bosco her account back, #delete Twitter. And now onto the grand finale of All Stars 10, which starts off with our queens sitting in the workroom reflecting on Mistress Isabelle Brooks' exit from the competition, where we hear Bosco say she's conflicted because she knows how much Mistress really wanted to be here. And it didn't occur to her, Bosco, that there was a situation where Mistress wouldn't be there, which I'm here laughing at because just last week Mistress was standing across from everybody in the workroom telling them how she didn't need RuPaul's Drag Race and could instead just make coin by playing video games on YouTube. So did she really want to be there? I don't know, jury's still out on that. Anyways, next our cliffhanger wildcard lottery pick is revealed as Kerri Colby walks through the workroom doors, which genuinely did gag me. Y'all know I was sitting here filming last week's video saying I would have bet all my money in the world that Mistress would be the one returning. Like, I'm genuinely gooped and gagged that the producers didn't take the opportunity to bring back the villain of the season to face off against Ginger in one final story arc climax lip sync of the season. But on the other hand, I can also see the producers thinking that putting Mistress up against Ginger in a lip sync wouldn't have been a very safe bet for trying to crown Ginger in the LalaPaRuza. And so Kerri coming in as the wildcard lottery twist is the first and only surprise of this finale. But next we do have RuPaul coming into the workroom to tell the queens there's one final twist of the season, because y'all wanted a twist, eh? Which is the queens will be using the Rate a Queen system to rate each other based on who they think their biggest lip sync competition is in order to seed the bracket. And this twist is I think, at least an interesting twist to put into a LalaPaRuza because it's different from how we've seeded all the other brackets, which were all by random chance. And it is also a fair way to make sure the best lip syncers in the competition don't end up knocking each other out too soon. However, as the queens enter the rated queen booth, it becomes clear that not everybody is totally sure why they're rating each other. Because in a confessional, we hear Aja talking about how she could be putting the best against the best and worst against the worst. And then we hear Irene talking about how she expects the bottom queens to be matched with the top queens, which is how they ultimately end up using these ratings to seed the brackets. But to me, it begs the question, why send the queens into the voting booth to decide how the episode will play out if not everybody understands how the seeding is going to work? Like, why did they not explain this to the queens before they went into the booth? Anyways, as the LalaPaRuza progresses, the rankings are revealed lip sync by lip sync, where we see there are some really interesting positions for some queens in particular. For example, we have Lydia B Kollins, who's been ranked the number 2 lip syncer of the group, who surprised me here, not because I don't think she's a good lip syncer, but because I'm not really sure the other queens knew how good of a lip syncer she was. Because most queens in this group would only have seen her defeat Mistress in a lip sync, and that really wasn't even her best lip sync. And even Jorgeous and Kerri, who do have more experience seeing her lip syncs, would only been aware of her 2 from the pink bracket, where she only won 1. And so my question here is just kind of like, who was ranking her that high and why? And in spot number 3, we have Jorgeous, who to me seemed way more likely to be a candidate for spot 1 or 2, considering how everyone knows what a good lip syncer she is and how she's demonstrated that across 2 seasons, and how they know how much RuPaul loves her. And then the final placement of this rated queen that absolutely gagged me was Aja at number 6, who is indisputably one of the best lip syncers of this entire franchise. Like, who the hell was rating her that low? And like, who specifically in the context of this bracket was ranking her below Daya and Bosco? Like, to me, that is crazy, but here we are. And honestly, the rankings probably didn't really matter that much in the grand scheme of things on Ginger Minj's Drag Race, but I will point out Ginger Minj's spot as the top-ranked lip syncer in this Rate Queen nonsense does give her a distinct advantage. Primarily in that, in round 1, she gets to lip sync against the worst lip syncer of this group. And because of her positioning in the bracket and going first, Ginger gets a lot of time to recoup her energy between lip syncs, whereas queens like Bosco, as we'll see later, have to go back to back in lip syncs against Ginger. And while this next unfair advantage I'm going to point out that Ginger had in this LalaPaRuza wasn't a result of the Rated Queen system, I think it must be acknowledged that in addition to the advantages I've already listed, Ginger also got to select both of the songs that she lip synced to in the first and second rounds. And that's the tea. And now without further ado, let's break down our lip syncs from this LalaPaRuza. First up, we've got the reason for this season, our first ranked Ginger Minj versus our 8th ranked eliminated wildcard, Kerri Colby, who lip synced to Disease by Lady Gaga as chosen by Ginger Minj. And from what I can tell, this lip sync is one of the most hotly debated online right now in places like X and Reddit, and even on my Patreon where the vote is for hottest hot in this lip sync is neck and neck. But is this lip sync really worth all the debate? No, I don't think so. I think it was a very mid performance from both queens. And this is one of those situations where it was less about who I thought won the lip sync and more about who I thought didn't lose. I will say Kerri definitely starts off this lip sync much stronger than Ginger, embodying the darker emotions of this song, and is really digging into some of that weird Lady Gaga-esque choreography with their movements in her hands. Whereas on the other side of the stage, we see Ginger being a little goofy, being a little silly, making her faces and pointing and walking. The typical Ginger Minj shtick. But by the second act of this song, we see Ginger really digging into the darkness. She's on her knees, she's giving drama, she's shuffling around, she is stomping, and she really is, I think, tapping into the energy a lot better here. Where on the other hand, Kerri's kind of losing steam in the second half of this lip sync. She's not giving anything new here. She let everything out in the beginning and now is kind of floundering. And because Ginger finished so much stronger than Kerri in this lip sync, I feel confident in saying Ginger won this lip sync, but only by a hair for me. And overall, I'm only gonna give each of them 3 flames for a very safe and whelming performance. And any queen will tell you, finding the right accessories to perfect a look can be hard. But today's video sponsor, Holzkern, makes turning heads easy. Holzkern is an Austrian-based company making beautifully crafted watches and jewelry for men and women, like these right here. Today, I'm wearing the Carbon, an absolutely gorgeous automatic watch made from gray-colored maple wood and dark gray stainless steel, with scratch-resistant sapphire glass. It catches light beautifully, allowing you to see into its inner 3D skeleton, and it's a piece that always gets me compliments. I'm also wearing the numerary ring made with stainless steel and koa wood inlay. And Holzkern products aren't just beautiful, they're also unique due to the natural currents of grain and marbling and the materials used to make them, like wood and stone. And all their products are manufactured in small quantities to ensure responsible and ethical production. Plus, every piece comes with a 2-year guarantee. And I'm excited to announce I've partnered with Holzkern to get you 15% off their entire website. Just use my link below or scan the QR code on screen and enter code BUSSYQUEEN at checkout. And best of all, Holzkern offers free express worldwide shipping, meaning you'll get your order in 5 to 9 business days with no unexpected tariff drama nonsense. And remember, you can shop the entire Holzkern website and get 15% off your order when you use my link or scan the QR code on screen. Thanks Holzkern for sponsoring today's video. Next up, we have our 2nd ranked Lydia B Kollins versus the 7th ranked Irene the Alien, aka the battle of the spiky costumes to Joyride by Kesha as selected by Lydia. And this lip sync was pretty much cut and dry. Both queens started off very evenly matched. Lydia though gets me a little more interested in her performance when she's miming Kesha's giggle in the track, and her early bottom skirt tearaway reveal was executed well. Irene on the other hand has a much clumsier costume reveal. We can see her struggling to get that outer layer off at one point and then unceremoniously walks to the back and tosses it into a pile at the back of the stage. Midway through this lip sync it gets a little more interesting though. Lydia's playing with her mini mace and that's all fun and interesting, but then Irene goes for another reveal, which is executed just as clumsily as the first, and again ends with her just like walking to the back of the stage and throwing this costume in the pile of costumes that she's creating in the back. Then Irene lands a wobbly cartwheel that turns into her completely eating shit on the stage. Like, I felt for her. One second she is up, she's jumping, she's bouncing, and the next she is on her back. Queen down! And this, I think, really shook Irene to her core. She is, I believe, in this moment very aware that her lip sync is not landing as well as Lydia's, physically or spiritually. And so there's just less confidence to what she's doing overall. Meanwhile, Lydia is absolutely eating up the choreo that she's doing, keeping the high energy, and performing for the judges without a single beat missed. Lydia gets a 4 flame hot from me, and Irene, I've got to give her raw. The execution on what she was trying to do was not good, and unfortunately, I think she just tried to do way too much and resulted in a clumsy performance. And so we see Irene the Alien exit the Tournament of All-Stars, but not before she gives us one final reminder that she placed last on her original season, just in case any of us forgot, which we didn't because she told us about it every time that camera was on her face. And next up, we've got our 3rd ranked Jorgeous versus our 6th ranked Aja to Party Lights by Natalie Cole as chosen by Jorgeous, which, like, sidebar, is totally crazy that Jorgeous also got to choose a song, which means the top 3 queens in the Rate a Queen system all got to choose their songs. Is that yet another rig? Maybe so. Anyways, this lip sync is another being hotly debated online because genuinely both queens gave stellar performances. And like, this was the first lip sync of the night where I was truly engaged and excited about what was happening. These two start off pretty evenly matched, I'd say, with Jorgeous doing her usual 110% energy, spinning in her little dress and pulling out some kind of choreo for every single beat of this track. Meanwhile, Aja's taking a more comedic route here in her campy nun costume and is, at least comedically speaking, keeping up with Jorgeous, but Aja does start to lose a little bit of steam midway through when she tries to do her costume reveals. That comes off pretty easily, but the gown she's wearing looks super cumbersome and she spends a lot of time like playing with the different parts of it, trying to get it off her body. But what really turned the tide of this lip sync towards Jorgeous for me was that crazy ballerina spin thing she did to the back of the stage when the lyrics were saying, "Would you believe I've got new wings and I can fly?" And throughout the lip sync, I've got to commend Jorgeous. She has proved that she has learned to emote with her face while she lip syncs, which is something she received a lot of criticism for in the past. Aja does pick up more energy near the end of the lip sync, and they've got some great moments together where they're both hitting dip splits and or cartwheels of some sort at different parts of the song. Like, the energy is so high. And so both queens definitely get hots for me in this lip sync, but I do think Jorgeous edged Aja out by more than just a hair here. And next up, we've got our 4th ranked Daya versus our 5th ranked Bosco, who lip synced to Show Me How You Burlesque by Christina Aguilera as chosen by Bosco. And before this lip sync starts, we see Daya getting very emotional on the stage over the idea of lip syncing against her sister Bosco, which is really beautiful, but all I could think was, damn, I'd be crying too if I had to lip sync against the most beautiful queen on this stage to a burlesque song while she's literally dressed in a burlesque costume. And this lip sync is not one that is being hotly debated by anyone tonight. In fact, I think everybody knew it was completely over for Daya the second that Bosco selected that track. But I do think Daya does deserve some credit here for giving an incredibly entertaining and high energy performance, at least in the first half of this lip sync. Because before Bosco revealed that her costume was not just like a sexy costume, but also had feathers built into the headpiece that she could remove and start using as props, I was thinking, oh, this could go either way. But yeah, after the feathers come off and Bosco starts rolling around on the floor and doing sexy little burlesque reveals with them, I mean, there was just nothing that Daya could do to compete. And Bosco's performance in this is genuinely worth watching. If you haven't seen the full thing, go do that. And I'm sorry that I can't show more of her lip sync because I've got to censor parts of it because I don't want this video to get demonetized, but wow, she was incredible in that. And so here, I'm gonna give Daya a very safe 3-flame hot just for trying her best, and Bosco a 5 out of 5. And next up we enter round 2 of the bracket where we've got Bosco lip syncing against Ginger to Raise Your Glass by Pink as chosen by Ginger. Anyways, this lip sync was one of the less notable of the LalaPaRuza. This song, on the other hand, is right up Ginger's alley. Like, pick any cheesy lyric from this track, like Party Crasher, Panty Snatcher, to Pink's little ad-libs in the track, like Oh Shit, My Glass is Empty, and you can understand why this song is perfect for Ginger. She puts a campy, crazy face over these silly little lyrics, and bam, we've got the judges laughing. Bosco, on the other hand, is not only just totally not dressed for this lip sync, but also seems really low energy and is like nervous in a way. But I feel like she should have known taking this track so seriously wouldn't have been a viable path to victory against Ginger, the comedy lip syncing queen. And while this lip sync was not particularly memorable, Ginger did a good job. I'd give her a hot, and Bosco, I'm gonna give her a rot. And so Ginger progresses into the final round of the LalaPaRuza. Who's surprised? And next up in round 2, we've got Jorgeous versus Lydia to Whenever Wherever by Shakira, chosen by the fickle finger of fate. This lip sync was incredible, and Jorgeous's performance in this lip sync was flawless. She was born to perform Shakira, and born to do drag, lest we not forget. Maybe more entertaining than this actual lip sync, though, was the discussion happening in the workroom by the eliminated queens gossiping about Lydia's love for Shakira, which starts off with a Lydia confessional saying, little known fact, I'm a Shakira superfan, where we then hear Daya say, you guys do know that Lydia was obsessed with Shakira as a kid, and then where we hear Irene say on her 5th birthday she had a Shakira birthday cake, which I'm sure is all true, but like, why do we all know these little random facts about Lydia and her love for Shakira? Like, were the producers maybe, I don't know, feeding them these lines so that they could give us, the viewers, some semblance of a possibility that Jorgeous wasn't gonna win this? Anyways, the performance from both queens is super strong from the start. They're both hitting every lyric and giving really interesting movements with their costumes, but it is absolutely over for Lydia the second the pan flutes start and Jorgeous is stomping in time with them. That absolutely sent me into the next dimension and officially, I think, turned me into a Jorgeous stan. But Jorgeous didn't just nail the facial emotion and dancing of this track, she also nailed the costume reveal. Because first she teases it with a little unzip and then starts to go back to dancing and essentially bouncing on the floor, and then does the ponytail whip, where she is giving the correct energy for this track. Sexy, but not crazy. Whereas Lydia over there on the other side of the stage is giving a little more frantic energy that's not quite right for the emotion of the song. And then Jorgeous finishes the reveal after we were like mentally gooning for it. Finally, she gives it to us, and she's dancing and doing choreo while she takes off the dress. She's not stopping to take it off and then walk to the back of the stage and then put it in a pile. Like, it's just part of her choreo to do the reveal, and that was so perfect. I really just need to stand in my truth right now and say that I think Jorgeous delivered one of the best lip syncs of all time with this Whenever Wherever lip sync. Like, this is gonna go down in the history books. And so I would give Lydia a safe hot here, but Jorgeous absolutely took her to slaughter with this one, and I'm gonna give Jorgeous 5 out of 5 hot flames here. But before we say goodbye to Lydia forever, I think we need to sit here and recognize that Lydia is walking away from a season of All-Stars where she is technically tied for 3rd place. A season of All-Stars that she filmed back to back with her original season. And a season of All-Stars where she displayed so much growth as a queen in such a short span of time. And Lydia, I think, deserves all the applause and all the props to your mamas in the world. Which brings us to round 3 of our lip sync LalaPaRuza SmackDown for the Crown and a cash prize of $200,000, where we have Jorgeous versus Ginger Minj to its reigning men by the Weather Girls. And look, is it a little obvious? Is it a little boring that we have the queen returning for her third time to Drag Race versus the queen returning to Drag Race for her fourth time up against each other at the very last part of this competition? Yeah, it is. Like, these are two of RuPaul's favorite queens, and nothing about this season has really been a surprise, besides Kerri Colby walking in the workroom instead of Mistress. And I was just sitting there watching this lip sync thinking, like, did anybody else actually have a chance at winning this season? Or was the whole thing just like a facade and setup for one of these two to get the crown? Which I kind of think it was. Anyways, let's talk about the lip sync, which I am going to say was in my top 3 of this evening. Both queens did an excellent job in this lip sync in their own respective ways. Ginger, of course, gave all camp, all comedy. And this track is one of those songs that plays well with camp and comedy, being very campy itself. And like the Pink song, this is probably something Ginger has performed hundreds of times in clubs. Like, you can tell she knows it in and out, and she in particular does the beginning part of this track, which is spoken word, super well. And she knows where to add the punchy comedy bits with a silly face or a perfectly timed lip sync. And as usual, Jorgeous is dancing circles around that stage. But what really impressed me about Jorgeous's performance in this third lip sync was that she seemed to be utilizing an almost completely different set of tricks from the first 2 lip syncs. Like, she somehow in her Rolodex of tricks kept pulling out new things. She is so good now at giving that facial emotion while she's lip syncing, and it elevates her performance so much. And on my first watch through of this episode, in my reaction video available exclusively on Patreon, which you can watch using the link below, I did think that Jorgeous ate Ginger up pretty severely, but I actually had a lot more appreciation for what Ginger did on my sequential watch through, because Ginger truly lip synced this track and was focused on connecting with the judges and cameras in a way that Jorgeous sometimes doesn't quite do because she's doing her tricks. It's just those little things that lend authenticity to Ginger's performances, like the claps in the background of the track, which she perfectly mimes in time with the song. And so I did like Ginger's performance a lot more on the second and third watch throughs. I actually am still sitting here thinking Jorgeous won that lip sync. I was so gagged by her so consistently, and she just left me wanting more. Whereas Ginger kind of just gave the same style of lip sync that she's given for the previous 5 or 6 lip syncs on this season, which includes a lot of pointing, a lot of walking, and a lot of perfectly timed silly faces for laughs. Oh, and the pointing towards the crotch, which she loves to do. And so yeah, I'm giving them both 5 out of 5 hot flames, but no matter how much I wanted Jorgeous to win this lip sync, I knew that it wasn't going to happen. Like, this whole season has definitely just felt like a setup for Ginger, which is not to discount her abilities as a queen or as a performer, because she absolutely has earned this victory. But my God, was it kind of boring and unsatisfying to watch play out. So yes, Ginger Minj wins the lip sync and thus wins the season, also winning her the crown and $200,000, which is very deserved for, I think, her contributions to drag as an artist and Drag Race the franchise. She is a force to be reckoned with and outclassed everyone in this season by miles. And I also want to give a huge shout out to the wonderful Injuria Paris Van Michaels, who looked absolutely gorgeous in her step down look. And now for my final thoughts on RuPaul's Drag Race All-Star Season 10, the Tournament of All-Stars. First up, I want to talk about the format change. The separation of this cast into 6 queen, 3-episode mini brackets was a stroke of genius on the part of the World of Wonder producers. It allowed us as viewers to focus on smaller storylines throughout this season and also appreciate each of the individual queens a lot more. Because on seasons where there's anywhere between, 12 and 16 queens, it can be very difficult for any one fan to appreciate any one queen if they're not the leader of the pack. And so often in main seasons and all-star seasons, we see early outs just not get enough attention or screen time. And so the producers here, I really think, caught lightning in a bottle in being able to cast more queens than ever, while also giving more queens than ever individual screen time. And it was also cool because, let's be honest, sometimes there's a mid-season lull where interest can wane, but with 3-episode segments, it kept people tuning back in and kept people interested every couple of weeks. A big con with this format change, though, was that by the 3rd bracket, it was very obvious the producers were only going to be pushing through queens they wanted to push through into the semifinals. And the one time I think I felt the shakeup happen was when the 3rd bracket pushed Cynthia into the semifinals with their MVQ points. Another issue with the mini brackets was seeing specific queens like Irene, Bosco, Ginger, and Jorgeous absolutely dominate their groups and leave no crumbs for some other queens to feast on. Because what I think we're really missing were some of the top queens in this competition competing against each other. And going from 9 queens to 1 winner in just 3 episodes felt wrong? Because all season we've been watching 6 go to 3, but the ratio of 9 to 1 all of a sudden just felt insane and weird. And I do get World of Wonder is working with like a contractually determined number of episodes for this season, but this I think would have been a great opportunity to increase that number and do, let's say, 4 or 5 semifinals episodes to get a smaller batch of queens before we enter the LalaPaRuza. The other issue I had, which wasn't really consequential to the outcome of the season, was how they executed the wildcard lottery twist. I just don't think it made any sense to bring the wildcard person back for the LalaPaRuza and the grand finale. Like, why would we not just put this person into the beginning of the merged group, where they would have maybe more fairly had a chance to compete in a traditional drag race challenge and prove their worth? Not to mention, I do not like how the wild card was chosen. Like, why were 2 judges allowed to pick the same person? And also, why did the judges not choose like Denali or Tina as one of their picks in addition to Kerri? Because like those queens actually had wins to back up and justify them being in the lottery. And finally, another issue with the season was, of course, the reason for the season, Ginger Minj, which again is not to criticize her, but is to criticize the production choice of including her in this cast. I said this in my last video, I think she was sorely miscast in this season, which is also not to criticize the other cast members of this season, but simply to point out that Ginger has so much time and experience both as a queen and a competitor on this TV show, coming back for a 4th time. Because like, if we want to have Ginger winning and we want that to feel satisfying for fans, why not cast some other queens who, in terms of competing on Drag Race, are on a more similar caliber to her? And those are my thoughts in tea, but I would love to know what y'all are thinking about everything down in the comments below, from how the season was cast to how it all played out in the end. And I want to give another huge thanks to Holzgren for sponsoring today's video and keeping me looking in the streets with their gorgeous jewelry. Don't forget to use my link below or scan the QR code on screen and enter code BussyQueen at checkout to get 15% off your entire Holzgren order today. This is a limited time offer. And lastly, I want to give an extra special shout out to Ashton, Cayenne, Felicia, JBR, Laura, Matthew Burns, Mikal, Minst, and Will and Tanner, who are all supporting me on my Bussy Queen Collector tier at patreon.com/BussyQueen. See y'all later. Love ya. Bye.